This is the Ramana Maharshi satsang, a time to listen, reflect, and deeply meditate. Know yourself and be always free and at peace. We'll go. Welcome. I'm Richard Clarke. I'm not a guru or a teacher. I love this teaching and so want to share it. I'm reading and commenting on the Avadhuta Gita. Continuing this week, I'm reading from chapter 1, now verses 6 through 9. 6. That God, who is the self in all, impersonal and changeless, like unto space, by nature purity itself, verily, verily, that I am. 7. I am pure knowledge, imperishable, infinite. I know neither joy nor pain. Whom can they touch? The actions of the mind, good and evil. The actions of the body, good and evil. The actions of the voice, good and evil, exist not in me, Atman. I am the nectar which is knowledge absolute. Beyond the range of the senses I am. 9. The mind is as space, embracing all. I am beyond mind. In reality, mind has no independent existence. Ramana Maharshi, though not directly commenting on this specific text, often echoed similar sentiments in his teachings, emphasizing the non-dual nature of reality and the true nature of the self. Let's explore these verses. 6. That God, who is the self in all, impersonal and changeless, like unto space, by nature purity itself, verily, verily, that I am. From Ramana Maharshi's perspective, this verse reflects the essence of Advaita Vedanta, emphasizing the oneness of the self, the Atman, with the universal consciousness, Brahman. Ramana taught that the ultimate reality is impersonal and changeless, akin to space, and that this reality is not something external, but the very essence of your being. What you seek is what you already are. 7. I am pure knowledge, imperishable, infinite. I know neither joy nor pain. Whom can they touch? This verse points to the nature of the self as pure consciousness, untouched by the dualities of joy and pain. This is like what Krishna said to Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita. The soul can never be cut to pieces by any weapon, nor burned by fire, nor moistened by water, nor withered by the wind. Ramana Maharshi would guide seekers to inquire into happiness and suffering, ultimately leading them to recognize the unchanging awareness that transcends both. 8. The actions of the mind, good and evil. The actions of the body, good and evil. The actions of the voice, good and evil, exist not in me, Atman. I am the nectar which is knowledge absolute. Beyond the range of the senses I am. This verse highlights the transcendental nature of the self, which remains untouched by the actions of the body, mind, or speech. Actions are done by the body, and since you are not the body, you are not the doer of these actions. Ramana encouraged seekers to inquire into the source of their thoughts and actions and to recognize the underlying consciousness that remains unaffected and untouched. Not only to recognize this, but to realize that consciousness as yourself. 9. Mind is as space, embracing all. I am beyond mind. In reality, mind has no independent existence. This verse emphasizes the transcendence of the self beyond the limitations of place and the mind. Mind does not exist on its own. It exists only within the consciousness which you are. Ramana taught the practice of self-inquiry to help seekers know their own true nature beyond the fluctuations of the mind. These 4 verses from the Avadhuta Gita expound upon the non-dual nature of the self, emphasizing its impersonal, changeless, space-like essence. The verses highlight the self's transcendence beyond joy, pain, and the actions of the mind, body, and speech. They affirm the self's immutable, infinite nature as pure knowledge. Furthermore, the verses underscore the self's boundless awareness beyond the limits and confines of the mind. They invite you to inquire into your true nature beyond the mind and beyond the world. So inquire, know yourself, and be always free and at peace. And now a talk from Nome, Beyond the Mind.
This self-luminosity, or self-knowing, is innate. It is of the very nature of consciousness, which is existence. For the perfect fullness of bliss, Ananda, you have only to know your existence, the consciousness, as it is. Such knowledge is necessarily non-objective in character. The knowledge of your existence, which is the knowledge of consciousness, is non-dependent. To know your being, you do not require a body with its sensations. To know your being, which is consciousness, you do not require a mind or thought forms. Indeed, the non-objective inquiry, who am I, as revealed by the Maharshi, is quite direct, requiring no intermediary. It is the directness of self-existent being, self-knowing consciousness. It is thought-transcendent knowledge. In the course of inquiring to know who you are, it is imperative that you do not assume the very misidentifications that you're attempting to transcend. So then, you do not come to know the self through means of the mind. Indeed, it is the misidentification with the mind that is the root of all Maya, illusion, and samsara, the repetitive cycle of birth and death. To misidentify with a mind, as with a body, is to court calamity. Are you a body? Are you a mind? How is it that you know of your existence? Certainly not by means of a body, and also not by means of a mind. Sri Bhagavan says that the mind is but a bundle of thoughts. This being so, then, the knowledge which illumines thought, but which is not illumined by them, must be beyond the mind, inherently so. If one attempts to know the self through the mind, how will he arrive? There is only one knower. In the known, what is objective, multiplicity is possible as a product of delusion or imagination. But for that which is non-objective and therefore utterly formless, how could duality or multiplicity be possible? Therefore, the knower is absolutely one. And that one knower is pure consciousness, which is unalloyed with anything else. If you imagine that the inquiry at least starts with the mind, really, it starts with yourself and not with the mind. The mind, therefore, is not a means of self-knowledge. The idea that there's a second knower, a mind or ego entity, is delusive. The consciousness is only one. Thoughts which appear as inert but which are actually unreal appear as a multiplicity. How unreal is the unreal? How real is the real? The real is completely so, the unreal is completely so. If you imagine that the mind stands between you and the Supreme Self. Upon what is such a supposition based? Are there two selves, one on one side of the mind and another on the other side of the mind? Is not your existence always more interior than thought? How could thought ever be you, the unknown knower of all that is known? If it is not you, how could it reveal you? What is being said of thought pertains to any state of mind, endowed with thought or thoughtless. Your nature is consciousness and not a state of mind. Therefore, you should know self-realization is of the nature of consciousness, which is pure being, and not a state of mind. Because it is pure being, and thus ever existent, the nature of realization is eternal. Being non-objective, it is infinite and homogeneous. Understand that the mind is not a second knowing entity, and it cannot obstruct you. Understand that the characteristic of the mind is unreal, and it does not bind. What is it that can be called the mind? Though it can be said to be composed of thought, what knows those thoughts? Apart from the knowing of them, the thoughts do not exist. But the knowing belongs to pure consciousness, which is non-objective and forever unmodified. If you realize this, you see that there is no such thing as thought, and the mind has not come to be. If the mind has not come to be, then all of its creations, which appear only in itself, inclusive of the entire world, has not been created. One self exists. One self knows itself. Inquire with the knowledge which is pure consciousness itself as the means. The end appears as the means. For whom is the mind? Who am I?
Now we'll take a few minutes and inquire. You exist, and you know that you exist. Inquire. Investigate within yourself. Reflect on moments of joy or pain. What is the unchanging background against which these experiences occur? Reflect on moments of stillness or emptiness in your mind. Who are you then? Can you observe the arising of thoughts and actions without identifying with them? Can you expand your awareness to encompass all sensations, thoughts, and perceptions, and see them as transient phenomena within the space of consciousness? Who am I? What is the nature of my existence? right. And now we'll close with a chant. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Om. Peace, peace, peace. All right. Well, I'm enjoying the Avadhuta Gita. It seems like he dives right into what we are.
Wonderful.
And doesn't mess around.
No, it's very direct.
And it's funny, I don't recall in the stuff that I've read Maharshi saying much from the Avadhuta Gita, except for the fact that he seems like he's living it.
Seems like he's it, yeah.
Yes. And it's still funny how within the recordings I have of Nome, there seems to be something that fits whatever I'm talking about.
Yeah, because that's all this, it's all the same thing.
That's right.
We've had this discussion. Richard.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you for joining me, and namaste, and we'll see you next week.
Namaste, thank you.
Namaste. These videos bring Ramana's teachings into your direct experience. Click subscribe to see more. Click thumbs up to like, and send questions and start a dialogue with a comment.